Good morning, Lee. It's good to see you here. I was quite surprised. But let me talk to you a little bit about teacher salaries and teachers staying in places. We had to do data analysis even on why teachers choose to remain and why teachers exit certain states. And we really thought that teachers would stay based on salaries. But teachers stay in the profession, according to our data sets, for more intricate things than just money. Some people are there because it's a calling, and they are reinforced when they achieve. Success tends to breed that success. So looking at that, one of the things that Arkansas had to do was to establish a strong mentoring process so that our teachers would not leave on the front end. The other thing our data showed that new teachers were often given the worst situations possible, the least amount of materials, the lack of the resources and all of that, and we had to stop some of those things in order to get them to stay. Had we not gone out to look at that data set, we would have continued to do the same kinds of things that was running our teachers off. Arkansas is not an economically rich state, so no matter how high we raise that salary, our border states, like my friend here, can probably offer more money. But we want to be sure that we're offering the experiences, the mentoring, those kinds of things that people need to stay in communities like ours to make a difference in the lives of kids. Teachers are phenomenal folks. And under accountability systems, sometimes I really believe they get a bad rap about what it is they do. But it takes tremendous courage and fortitude and commitment each and every day to go out and make a difference in the lives of kids. And so the data didn't yield what we thought. Now, money does matter. I don't want you to think that people don't need money. They have to support themselves because many teachers in our state have two jobs. They moonlight. Some of you know what I mean. After work, they have to work another job sometimes to make ends meet. Or if there are two teacher families and they got 3 kids now going to college, somebody's got to get out of teaching in order to make that difference, and that's unfortunate. It is time for teaching to be respected as a true profession in this country, and hopefully with the reauthorization of NCLB, it will become just that, because everybody in this room learned from a teacher. And if we don't support that profession, then we're not going to continue to get the results that we want. And money is important, but also those intricate things like recognition, like rewards, like success, those play a more important part. Thank you.
Let's take one final question.
Hi, Bethany Little with the Alliance for Excellent Education, and I wanted to ask a little bit about the promise and hope of community and parent empowerment as it relates to data. I know this is one of the major issues people think about when they think about the possibilities of No Child Left Behind and what it's offered in terms of data. But I also, as a parent of a 3-year-old who can't figure out for the life of me where to send my kid to school, even though I do education policy as a career, recognize that parents are in some level being offered a lot of information and not a lot of understanding about how to use it. And wondering if you have a sense of how the data that is available is helping to empower communities and parents or not, and what it would take and whose role it is to really help that data be most useful to those parents and those communities in decision making.
Real quick example for Indian education communities. I do know that they do a survey and they look at some of the information that's available currently from schools. And one key factor that they did evaluate was the attendance of Native American students. So as a result of getting the information, a effort was made to ensure that the Native American students were in attendance at that particular school, which did in the long term had a real dramatic effect on the success of the students.
If I can follow up, data has no value to parents unless it has utility. And I'll have to say, as the data chief for Arkansas, I build the Arkansas report card, and we send it out to 500,000 kids and families. And the first couple of years, as data folks, we were just so interested in having it statistically sound and reliable and all the data sets checked. But the second year, we put a survey on to parents. What do you think about the report card? And we were thinking that they thought, my goodness, the data is fantastic. That's not what they said. They said, Dr. Smith, please provide something that we can understand that's relevant and reliable to us. So we had to go in and revamp not only the state's report card, but the assessment data that we send home to parents. They couldn't read the graphics and all that. That didn't make any sense. So now it's color-coded. It's a lot easier to read, and we still have ways to go in that. If we have more money, we could make it even better. But sometimes when we stay around this so long, we don't understand that we talk in a different language, LEP and IEP. People don't know what you're talking about. They need a lexicon out there. And even some teachers don't understand what we're talking about, and standard scores and scale scores and all those kinds of things. So we've got a long ways to go. And through this reorganization, making it easily understood to parents and transparent to parents, I think, is ultimately important. So whatever you can do in your communities to push that, because it won't have that utility, not only to parents, but I think it also needs to have utility to kids. They need to be able to understand what they need to do differently to make a difference.
Sure. I think having the data is directly tied in our communities to a community empowerment piece, which actually is tied to a political empowerment piece. And in particular in our communities, even the data that does exist, for example, census data, or the fact that the majority of those students are in that school or from a particular ethnic refugee group, still does not politically empower that community to say we need another counselor or we need another translator in the school system. And I say that in the sense that data does have to be connected to tools so that parents can utilize that data, as well as advocates. For the most part, the data has been used by advocates to make a better case to administrators, but at the end of the day, nothing is going to move unless parents are politically empowered to say, hey, we demand and we have a right to shift the kind of tools that you're giving our students and to really make you look at the school and the work differently. In particular, where we found unique strategies has been through community-based organizations, like I mentioned earlier, where you have people who have a foot in both worlds, right? Who understand how important it is to have a systemic change as well as an individual change from a parent or child level. And for us, the data has really been, the fact that there isn't data allows us not to even be able to have a conversation with administrators first, which then even disempowers parents even more because we can't even get that information to parents to use. So we feel like data is a critical tool, but it doesn't mean anything unless parents feel empowered both on the political and community level to shift their own lives. And part of our strategy, I think, through the campaign as well as through just our work on all pieces is to do that. You cannot do sort of like policy engagement without making sure constituents who are most impacted engage in that work, and that's got to be a critical piece of it. I just want to connect earlier to the fact, too, around, this is a side note, around minority serving institutions. There's actually now Asian Pacific Islander serving institutions, so there's an API designation now that universities can apply for that have low-income Asian Americans. And I just want to echo the fact that minority serving institutions and their programs are eligible, or all students are eligible for it. So it doesn't serve just that population, but it teaches the entire college campus around really what the added value of that community and that culture is to that entire community. And therefore, I think minority serving institutions play a critical role in bridging that gap with mainstream populations to understand that better.